Now we'll have our reading from the Rays of the One Light.
This is a reading from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 30. Do you need a guru? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Many people scoff at the idea of having a guru. True to human nature, generally, they make a virtue of their scoffing. I am responsible for what I do, they announce, responsible for my mistakes as well as my victories. What would I ever learn if I handed over my development to someone else? To depend on another for guidance would be an act of spiritual cowardice. It would be understandable for someone gifted with some trivial ability, for instance with words, to insist on doing his crossword puzzle himself without letting anyone else help him. But supposing, even in such trivial matters, he had no such gift, what true virtue would there be in refusing to learn? For that matter, moreover, where do our gifts come from? They are not a naive ability. Still, crossword puzzles are hardly an important challenge. What if a person wanted to do something daring, to climb a cliff, for instance, but refused to study the art of mountain climbing? He would climb at the risk of his life. And how much more is risk than physical life in the great adventure of the divine search, where the risk is to salvation itself? Where is the sacrifice in seeking guidance? Even a mountain guide wouldn't presume to do one's climbing for one. His purpose would be only to help the neophyte to climb safely. To have a wise guru is not a sign of weakness, but of plain common sense. All the saints, aware as they are of the hazards of the adventure, agree on the importance of having a guide or guru. And these are the heroes speaking, not cowards or spiritual weaklings. Jesus emphasized the importance of having a teacher by asking John to baptize him. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 3, we read of his coming to John. Thus Jesus said to John, "It becometh us to fulfill all righteousness." In the Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, Sri Krishna says, "Open thyself to those who have attained wisdom. They will be thy teachers. Ask questions of them, both verbally and mentally. Serve them faithfully and with devotion." How is the devotee to recognize one who has attained wisdom? The Bhagavad Gita gives us this inspiring description of the sage. By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance-comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens and kinsmen, loving all alike, good or evil. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
So we'll continue with a reading from Rays of the One, Whispers from Eternity. And today's reading is a salutation to the great preceptor from the Sanskrit scriptures. Bearing the bliss of Brahman, happiness supreme, wearing the image of wisdom, beyond the dispute of any qualities, free as the limitless sky, knower of all there is to be known, thou perennial taintless one, witness of all happenings, beyond all conception's boundaries, uncolored by good, bad, and active qualities, my ever awake preceptor, I bow to thee. And that's what we are celebrating today, our ever awake preceptor. Our topic is, do you need a guru? And I might summarize that up as saying, yes, if you want to live wisely. Yes, if you want to learn how to navigate the waters of life with grace and poise. Yes, if you want to reach the shores of self-realization and be introduced to the infinite. Depends what we want to do with life. It's our choice. There is a reading from AY in which Master states, the trivial preoccupations of daily life do not satisfy our deepest needs. For wisdom too, man has a native hunger. That hunger cannot be satisfied with all the entertainments and thrills in this world. We will always come up short. There is a deep, deep yearning of the soul that eats through us and craves going back and uniting itself with the ultimate source. We've all come into this life to find our divine destiny. And for that, to attain that, we need the help of a guru. God comes to the world and speaks to us through his human messengers. That is the role of the guru, the connector, to bring us back to the divine. When I started my spiritual search in my early 20s, I would go and meet every saint, swami, guru, sadhu that was passing through town. I was first in the row and first in line, even though sometimes I had to wait for a long time, but I did get in to sit in the presence of those saints and sadhus. And when I sat in that presence and felt the radiation of love that emanated from that being that was connected to the divine, and I felt the blessings, and I felt that state of being, all I could do was weep. I'd weep and weep. I wept rivers of tears in the presence of those sadhus and gurus, not all of them, but with many, just to tap into that potential. They were reflecting pools for me to realize, to see, to taste my potential. And I knew I wanted to be in that state of being. I knew I belonged there, but I felt very distanced, very small, and very removed from that state of being. So there came the weeping. There were tears of joy, I'm sure, but tears of deep melancholy also. When I first heard some of Swami Kriyananda's music, it would have the same effect on me. I would weep. So coming back to meet the divine, it's a transformative journey, and it revolutionizes every cell and every neuron in our being. When we're stuck in ego consciousness and we are filled to the brim with our opinions, our plans, our ideas. There's no space for anything new to come into our lives. And when we're so packed full with our own stuff, including our confusion, we become opaque in the realm of spirit, because there's no space for any light in the vessel. There is a story that Master tells about this disciple named Rama. He lived in a jungled hermitage, and he was under the tutelage of a guru. And he was there for a few years, but he felt he just needed to be freed of people around him, being freed of the disciplinary activities that took place every day in the hermitage. So he told his guru he was going to go and find God in a cave. And the guru said, fine, if that's your choice, but you can escape people. You will not be able to escape your restless mind. It will lead you astray. Anyways, the disciple decided he was going off to his cave, and he renounced all his possessions. All he took were 2 pieces of rag that served as his loincloth. He gave up everything else and found a nice cave right above a tiny little village. And he woke up the first morning and found that one of his rags had been chewed by a mouse. And he prayed, Heavenly Father, I've given everything up. I spent a night in this cold cave meditating. I'm doing this for you. And all you have is to send me a mouse to destroy my last belonging. So one of the villagers was walking by and saw the distress of the saint. And he said, honored sir, what is distressing you to this point? And the saint told him, Rama told him what his situation was. And the villager said, well, there's a very simple solution for that. Get a cat. The cat will keep your cave free of mice, and you can devote yourself to your spiritual sadhana. Brilliant, said Rama. So the villager bought him a cat. Nice, big, furry Persian cat arrived, and that was the end of the situation with the mice. Every day, Rama went down to the village to seek milk for his cat. Until one day the villager said, you know, why are you always coming down here to get the milk? Why don't you get your own cow? We could furnish you with a cow, and then you wouldn't have to come all the way down. The cow would have milk for your cat. And he said, wonderful idea. So here he has a cow and a cat, and they're living happily in the cave. But the cow goes out to pasture every day, and he goes down into the villagers' paddy fields and starts gnawing on their crops, and the villagers don't like that. So they ask Rama, you should restrain your cow. Rama says, how is it going to be fed? It needs food. So it says, well, why don't you get your own land? We could give you 25 acres here, and your cow could roam around and eat, and you could feed your cat. Brilliant. So Rama went down to the village and got all the children. And in the name of God, he brought them to that land he had been given, and the children built him a little hermitage and tilled the soil and milked the cow and fed the cat. And this went on for a couple of years until the villager said, you know, the children just refuse to do their duties at home, so we're not going to be able to loan you the children any longer. And he says, what am I going to do? Who's going to do all this work? They said, get your own children. And one of the villagers said, I have a wife of marriageable age, and it would be an honor if you married her and started a family. Brilliant, thought Rama. So here he was getting ready for his wedding festivities, and his guru comes by and visits him and says, what is this? I see you live in a new hermitage. You have a cat, a cow, land, and you're preparing to get married. What has happened to you? And in that question, that just shocked Rama's consciousness, and he started laughing hysterically. He woke up. The guru helped him get out of that state, and off they went back to the hermitage where Rama belonged. to work under the tutelage of his guru. But isn't this what happens to us? We go off and we get lost in the labyrinth of life. And we go round and round and round for eternity sometimes, not for eternity, but close to that. And who was the one that came to rescue Rama from that labyrinth of confusion? His guru. That guru that is always there, always working for us. Without the tutelage of a guru, we get stuck in the collective consciousness of our times. And we respond to the current trends and opinions and ideas and lifestyles. It's very hard to get out of that. But the magnetism and the help of the guru will help break that hypnotic state that has kept us trapped in those lower states of consciousness. He will guide us and introduce us into higher, more refined states of being. We have the anecdote of Dr. Lewis, who was a Bostonian doctor, very traditional, and he was a little apprehensive at meeting this Swami Yogananda who had arrived in town. He thought that these Indian gurus just took you for a ride and tricked you and took your money, so he wasn't too into meeting him. But at the behest of his wife and some other spiritual seekers, he decided to meet Yogananda on Christmas Eve, 1920. And he had a very good question. And Yogananda gave him an answer and an experience to that question. If thine eye be single, thy whole body will be full of light. Yogananda just tapped him on the third eye. And Dr. Lewis had the experience of oneness in the light. But when he came out of that experience, Yogananda had a question for Dr. Lewis. He said, will you always love me as I love you? And Dr. Lewis surprised himself by saying, yes, I will. But it's there in the heart, in love, that the relationship with the Guru begins. In love, the Guru opens our heart. The Guru steps into our love and expands it and deepens it. As our love deepens, then our understanding increases, not the other way around. We seek too much information and not enough transformation. It's in the heart, in love, that we relate to others, all kinds of relationship, whether it be business or romantic relationship or the relationship between parents and a child. If we haven't related and met in the heart, that relationship was never, ever consummated. And that's where the Guru comes in and does his work in our heart, expanding our love so we can receive that ocean of bliss and infinity that God has to offer us. The Guru is the dissolution of clouds in the pool of clarity. He is the living presence of God, and he will be with us throughout our existence. We don't pick our Guru. The Guru's been there from the time our soul took form, in whatever realm, in our own, and up the different realms of existence. Yet we receive the Guru's grace through a qualified living teacher. And that's how that grace comes down the line, from the Guru to the disciples of the disciples, and so on into the world. Those are the branches, the millions of different branches that reach out and move into the world. Yet those branches are all taking their nourishment from the vine, whether the Guru is embodied or whether the Guru is working with us in spirit. There is a saying in Spanish that I don't think I've heard in English, but it translates as, tell me who you associate with, and I'll tell you who you are. What is our association with our Guru, with the Guru's disciples? How close are we to this sacredness, to this light that has come into the world? There is no greater blessing than having a Guru. And the association with the Guru is a thread that weaves itself through every moment of our existence, if we choose to bring that thread with us. The Guru will be there for our tiniest needs. The Guru will be there for our greatest ordeals. I remember once about 30 years ago, maybe even 35, before we had all the smartphones and GPSs and Waze and all that, I had to go and see somebody who was very ill. And they had asked for me to come and see them. It was about an hour and a half away from the place I lived. I had never been to this person's home and took down the directions verbally that were given to me. I obviously must have missed some part of those directions because I found myself completely and totally lost. It was nightfall. So I just decided to pull to the side of the road. Other cars were parked there. No hazard lights, no blinkers, nothing. I just pulled to the side of the road, turned off the engine, and just prayed. I said, Master, I need to be at this person's bedside, and I don't know where I am. What are we going to do about this? And I just started repeating a mantra. 5 minutes may have passed. A car drove up next to me, took the window down and said, do you need any help? All the cars were parked in that street. I said, yes, I need to get to this address, but I'm a little lost. He said, I'll take you there, follow me. And I followed that car for about 10 minutes and arrived to destination. And that's a small little example. We have big examples like Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who had a mission in India. She has missions all over the world, but this particular mission was in India or Canada. I really am not clear on that. But anyways, there was not a good organization for the pantry that week or month. And it came to Mother Teresa's ears that there were 300 novitiates that were out in the field, and we're going to be coming back to the mission in an hour and a half for lunch, in addition to 400 people that they fed every day who needed lunches. And so Mother Teresa did not pick up the phone and call her benefactors and say, can somebody help me here? Nope. She said, who's in charge of the kitchen? And the sister that was in charge of the kitchen that day, she sent her to the chapel. She says, go to the chapel and pray. Tell Jesus we need food today. Next, what's next on our agenda? And she started ordering people around to take care of business that day. 20 minutes passed. Somebody came to the mission door and asked to speak to Mother Teresa. He said, Mother Teresa, I'm the superintendent of the city's schools, and today the teachers have gone on strike. We have 7,000 school lunches that need to be served. We thought you might need some. From the smallest to the greatest needs, the Guru's there. If you've seen the Sistine Chapel, we have that beautiful painting of Michelangelo, the creation. We see a parsonage that depicts God, the big, nice beard, outstretching his hand, pointing a finger, and he's facing Adam, the creation, who's a little bit lower and also with his arm outstretched. And there's the Creator ready to give Adam the gift of life, the gift of breath. And there goes Adam, spiraling out. Once he has his gift of life, he goes into the world, and the world meets him with his free will. But that Adam wants to come home again. And we're back in the Sistine Chapel. There's Adam this time reaching out to God. He wants to come home. And God is there reaching out to him. He wants him back home. But he doesn't quite make it, does he? Because between those fingers, there's a gap. This is where the Guru comes in and connects them. The Guru is the bridge between heaven and earth. And once the Guru has connected man and the Creator, now it's God touching God. Because the Guru has polished our diamond nature. So we can come home and be the sons of God and step into the kingdom in all our glory and power. We could change the topic today, not the topic, but the question. We could rephrase the question. Do you need a guru, which equals, do you need love? Pure love, divine love, unconditional and endless love. The answer is yes. You certainly need a guru. Now we'll have our offertory.